Yep. All right, shifting gears a bit, we'll go into some toy news and sorry, good old politics. Because it's in the news. So this was a crazy one last week. I saw this actually on Ghostbusters News. They were the first outlet to talk about it. And then I, of course, went to Hasbro Pulse and saw it for myself. So last week on, at this point, was it Saturday maybe? Hasbro took down all of their pre-orders. Every pre-order was marked temporarily unavailable. And since then, I checked, I believe yesterday. Yeah, yesterday they are back online. No coincidence. This was after they lowered the tariffs from 145% down to 30%. The pre-orders are back. Now, Hasbro has not come out and talked about what are their plans with any of this. Like, zero. And some other toy companies are talking about what they're doing. It's just interesting that Hasbro's not one of them. And being that they're a publicly traded company, that could be part of the reason why. In all honesty. I'm trying to see, where did I find this story, and I don't see it, and I can't remember where I found it. But here's what we'll do. Because I know he talked about it. Videos. Here we go. We're going to give a good old reaction here to our boy, Mad Hatter.
Pieces. Support this if you're a fan, obviously. And yeah, you guys know how to manage your own money, okay? You're all big boys and girls. Speaking of how to manage money, Super 7, sorry to say, has laid off seemingly many artists from their roster. One of them that I know personally, Kyle, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. I think he told me one time how to pronounce it, and I think I forgot, but it's Kyle W. Okay? I'll put his Instagram right here. Kyle is, he might be the main brain behind this, but he's definitely one of the big players behind the 2003 TMNT Turtles, which I'm very excited to get. I ordered them. I'm hoping they come any day. You know, I as I understand it, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand, that was kind of like his baby or one of his babies. I know he's had a hand in Thundercats and things like that. And there are other artists, like I said, I just don't know them. I don't think I know them on a personal level. But it seems that, unfortunately, there were a lot of layoffs, and apparently it's tied to tariffs. Okay, if you want my opinion on it, I think that times were tough anyway. Okay, and sometimes when times get tough, and you know, the situation is, you can't keep the lid on the situation. Sometimes certain things give you an out. Okay, and not to say that everything is the cause of tariffs. It might be a mix, but the brass at Super 7 decided in their, you know, infinite wisdom or not wisdom to let go of, I guess, a slew of designers, which I don't know what it looks like there now. Like what's left at Super 7? Is there anyone left? I know Kyle was up there on the food chain. I had heard rumors that Brian Flynn is not controlling the ship anymore, that it's other people. I don't know. But there are a lot of things that are in question now. Like, moving forward, what does Super 7 look like? Like, what and we do need to talk about it, because I know that there's a lot of criticism lobbied at that company from myself as well, in terms of like their product, the prices, and this and that. Some people will say this has been a long time coming. Some people, will lament if certain lines stop. To me, I'm very, as you know, very invested in like that Thundercats line, even though it's got a slew of problems, but it's really the only place to go. Does that become a good thing? Does that line, if Super 7 stops making Thundercats toys, does that license go, is that free now? Can that go to somebody else and maybe you get better toys? I don't know. And by
So he's right about a lot of almost everything. As far as like when he was like, people will say blank. Now, Hasbro is like Hasbro, Mattel 1 and 2, interchangeable by the day. Who's the bigger company? At this point, I might even say Hasbro's a bigger company because they own Wizards of the Coast, which is Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, that kind of stuff. So they make a lot of profit on that with very little overhead. Same time, Mattel owns Barbie. You have the Barbie movie. That's a lot of money as well, but that's a lot of overhead to do that. So you can go back and forth. You have a company like Super 7, though, where all they have is the toys. All they have is the physical product you buy. Now, a company like Hasbro might have the ability to absorb some of the tariff stuff. Maybe. But obviously we saw they did have a breaking point. And the breaking point was the 145, in which case they had to pause all their imports. A company like Super 7, though, they're not going to have the same threshold. They're not going to have the same ability to absorb X amount of dollars. Now, he's correct where, financials of Super 7 probably weren't good anyway, because we saw the prices of some of their figures, because they still have brick and mortar. Those are a lot of factors at play when you think about how successful a company is. Excuse me. It's a niche product, so there are a lot of things in the works here and a lot of questions. And I've wanted to message some people and I haven't, kind of out of respect, but I might have to do it just to get an idea of what's happening over there. But the other thing that came out today was the comments by the CFO over at Walmart. And if I can find that video that I saw earlier today, I will play that. We're going to have a commercial, I'm sure. Yep. By the way, guys, I've not been running ads on the live streams. So let me know if you've been enjoying that. For all you replay heads, sorry. You got to deal with the ads on there.
Sales and earnings growth in the latest quarter, but warning on its call that tariff pressures could mean higher prices soon, as early as next month. I'm joined now by John David Rainey, Walmart CFO, alongside Yahoo Finance's executive editor, Brian Sozzi. Brian, take it away for us.
Thanks so much, Madison. John David.
Brian had that evil look on his face just now.
Always nice to see you here. So lots of headlines this morning on Walmart's call out of having to raise prices to offset these tariffs. I know you don't take this decision lightly. Can you talk to us, your thinking behind it, and then how much on average will prices go up at Walmart?
It's good to speak with you, Brian, and good to be on the show. You know very well we're wired to keep prices as low as we can for our customers. Everyday low prices is what we stand for. And we're going to keep prices as low as we can, as long as we can. But when you look at the magnitude of some of the cost increases on certain categories of items that are imported, it's more than what retailers can bear, it's more than what suppliers can bear, and so we'll work hard to try to keep prices low, but it's unavoidable that you're going to see some prices go up on certain items. And so we'll work to try to keep that as low as we can, and certainly look to try to gain share and be aggressive and play offense in this environment to keep prices lower than others. But given that you've got 30% tariffs on certain categories of items that are going to be imported, you're likely going to see some price increases go up there.
John David.
So he kind of keeps repeating that same talking point. And the reason I'm showing this to you guys is a company like Walmart saying that the tariff stuff is they can't absorb all of it is a huge red flag. Because if they can't do it, a company like Hasbro won't be able to do it. Super 7 won't be able to do it. Savage Crucible, Four Horsemen, Ramen Toys. These guys, Valaverse, they won't be able to do that. They can't do that. And we've talked about that before. Now, where people are getting things confused is they're like, well, the tariffs are down to 30%. What are you talking about? And people who would argue for the tariffs would say, they're down to 30%. What are you talking about? First of all, it's not 30% on everything. There are still a lot of categories that have not moved since their initial numbers were put out there. Specifically in the realm of China when it comes to certain things being produced. So we're going to assume at this point that toys are categorized as 30% instead of the 145. The issue you have is, let's say you are Super 7 and you already towing the line of making a profit to the extent that you can meet payroll, pay rent, all that stuff. Let's say you were doing that before. The 30% is still higher than you were previously paying. The baseline before, I think, was like 20%. Let's use Google and find out. What were the China tariffs before Trump? So between 0 and 5 in 2018 and 20% in 2021. And when Joe Biden took Joe Biden took office. So that was one of the things that people were highlighting was like, well, Biden didn't change what Trump had put in when he was in office of the 20%. So even something like that, we did not previously talk about here on the channel. I didn't talk about it. I don't think any toy people were talking about it. But what we did talk about post-COVID was how the prices were going up on all the stuff we were collecting. And if you remember, I mentioned the comparison to the oil crisis back in the 70s when you had the empty gas stations, all that stuff was happening. The toy aspect of it, keeping it nerdy, was G.I. Joe was 12-inch figures at the time, ended up having to go down to the 3-inch figures, because they were trying to save money because it was costing so much to make the 12-inch figure, because fossil fuels help make plastic. So making that comparison back in that 2021 era, and now in hindsight that tariffs is a conversation, it kind of explains why we saw price hikes with McFarlane, with Hasbro, with WWE figures, Mattel figures, Hasbro probably being the most egregious. You started getting less accessories with your NECA stuff. You started getting lower quality figures from Super 7, like all these things were happening in 2021. So that makes sense. The 20% tariff off of previously 0 to 5, they had to kind of raise their prices. So now that things are 30, it is even more. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't consider when we talk about being a toy company and importing your stuff. First of all, you can't just turn the switch on and now they're coming out of Vietnam. Now they're coming out of somewhere else, which still does not solve the issue of made in America, for the record. But you can't just turn the switch on and now Hasbro or Super 7, or if we're talking about smaller companies, Ramen Toys, for example, or Valaverse, they can't just be like, all right, China, I'm done making toys with you. I'm going to pick up the phone and make them in name your country. That is not how that works. But the other thing, too, is that when people think about tariffs, when it comes to importing stuff like toys, they don't consider that there's other people involved in this. You still have your shipping company, which is either your ocean freight. If you got the money, you're paying air freight. You've got your broker fees, the people who actually sign the paperwork and move things for you. You got your trucking fees. You have all these other people at play around the logistics of moving a product. Right now, the tariffs went from 20 to 145 to 30 temporarily for 90 days. If I'm a small company, I'm like, great, I got 90 days to get my stuff over that was sitting in a warehouse. You don't think that the trucker, the freight forwarding company, the broker, you don't think all of them are going to raise their prices so they can figure out who's going to get the golden ticket to get their product in that 90 days from A to B? People don't think about that. There was also a loophole that got closed where you had 0% on stuff under a certain amount that was mailed, and they got rid of that. So if you were a smaller company and that's how you're moving your stuff, now you have tariffs where before you didn't have any. So Walmart waving the flag today that they can't absorb these costs, even at 30%, was an alarm that people did not see coming, because people were very short-sighted and said 145, 30 is less than 145. We're doing great. There's more to the story than just the number. So with the Super 7 news, with Hasbro playing chicken this week with the pre-orders, and then with Walmart, who we buy our toys from a lot of times, well, the stuff that they said today, you know, it's going to continue to get harder for us in this hobby. It's going to continue to get harder. You know, if there's, what I will say is, if there is a figure that is in stock that you were thinking about playing the long game on it, I probably wouldn't. If you're, and here's the thing, like, am I saying a figure that you would have waited till to Ollie's to get? No, because that figure that you're waiting to Ollie's, you probably didn't really want anyway. You're just like, if I get it, I get it. But if there are times where I'm like, oh, I really want to get this thing, but I'm going to wait it out and just see. You may not want to do that because it may stay where it's at price wise, especially if these companies are experiencing inventory shortages. They're going to be less likely to put things on clearance and on sale because they rather have a full peg and give you the appearance of stock than put it on sale, sell it, and not have anything to put on that space. Optically, it doesn't look good. It never looks good when you go to a store, the shelves are empty. So it's crazy. It's crazy. And sadly, I just feel like we haven't seen the worst of it. Even though the number has come down, it's still higher than previously. And that doesn't get talked about. But, you know, we'll see. I think Ramen Toys made a statement the other day, and then I'll get to the comments. Can I not spell ramen? I know that's Roman. I thought I spelled ramen before. There we go. I know he was making some comments the other day. But I don't see any post here. So those must have just been stories. Oh, was he on this podcast? Toy Kind of Mood, episode 217. Let's look that up. A Toy Kind of Mood. Now, mind you, this is, if he's on this episode, this was 5 weeks ago. Seven days, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, 4 months, 4 months. Right, 3 weeks, 1 month. Wasn't it like 5 weeks ago it said? Terror Dog. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's see if it's something he talks about.
We're collecting, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like
Then again, somebody is correcting me that they might also be wiping that out really soon. So until it really
Yep.
affects us, it doesn't affect us in that sense, right?
So-
It's like you don't really.
What I do like about Fresh Monkey, and they're working with Big Bad Workshop on this, but they are fans. We've had them on the show before. They are fans of figures just like Ace and Patrick. They make toys, but they love toys too. And it's like they just like no way. People are already complaining about $40 Monster Force, and those I think those pack out well at a $35 price tag. And then so for this 5 POA with hardly any, no, there's no way they could do it. So
No.
they had to cancel, and we'll get into tariffs in a second. But yeah, I mean, how did this make you feel, Patrick? Did you saw this news?
it broke my heart. I wanted my translucent tick, and I wanted my Arthur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about it last week, but we're getting the 112 tick. Is that make you happy?
Not so much. I mean, so I wanted to.
Some of these are friends at Savage Crucible and these other places, but you don't seem that affected by it. Is there a moment to pause and say, hey, we're not going to stop doing this for now, or are you just, I don't know, talk to us about this?
I think there's always gonna be. It's always gonna be good if we just think about what's going on in our environment, because again, the world does not revolve around us, but the world is revolving. So obviously, you see that this is happening. Whether or not it affects us at the moment, we don't know yet because we do not ship in large containers. There is already some evidence that we know. I mean, there's evidence obviously, but what's close to us, right? So there's some evidence of increase in prices, but still unsure how they calculate it, because I'm seeing some videos about, let's say, for example, if you have a container that is $100,000 worth of goods, you're expected to pay $54,000 on that, which now is actually 125,000, because now tariffs is now back up to 125. If you have not got the latest news, so it has gone from 54% to 125%. So does it actually make sense for an importer to import something to the US from China with his goods costing $100,000, and then he has to pay $125,000 more so that he gets himself bankrupt straight away? Or maybe he has millions of dollars in the bank and $125,000 is just a chink on the armor. So we don't know the details, right? So pertaining to us, at the moment, we are hearing that, if the individual order is less than $800 US, it's not affected by the tariff. But then again, somebody is correcting me that they might also be wiping that out really soon.
That's the one I was just talking about. That's the one I was talking about. The $800 value. That was one of the loopholes that a lot of people were using for a long time. That now is closed. It's now closed. Again, this was a month ago at this point.
Still, it really affects us.
Shout out Kenobi.
Us
Shout
in that
out
sense,
to Orlando.
It's
Good to
like
see you.
you don't really know that fire hurts until you touch it, that sort of thing. So in that sense, my stand is
That makes
just
sense.
to be cautious in terms of our production. We are a company that is really is integral, that we have people buying our products. Otherwise, we do not have the income and the revenue to carry on the next product, the next project of R&D. In the meantime, like I was saying, normally for us, the first and second quarter of the year is always R&D, and we start shipping normally on the third and fourth quarter. That's been the cycle of Ramen Toy thus far. So as the current situation is affecting the second quarter, we don't really feel it yet until maybe the third quarter. If it still persists, who knows, right? We'll have to see. We have heard about the TikTok ban, and then it got reversed the next day, that sort of thing. So again, we really
That's a
have
good
to
point too. Yep.
just be don't panic. Things will happen. Even if it happens, there's a chance for us to put on the brakes and see what we can do. For example, if the goods gets arrive at the US port and the tariffs are are supposed to be paid. If you don't pay it, it just means it gets held at the port. So it's still there. There might be a delay to getting the goods to your customers. Maybe at the end of the day, when everything the dust settles, it's reduced, and then it can be released. Then you can get the goods to your customers without paying any tariffs. I don't know. I'm just saying, right? So we hope.
This is the reason I love this is what I was saying before, and I feel like I just got the cosign that I'm not crazy, that I'm not crazy, because I told you guys, weeks ago, I used to do import export. It's just been a long time. It's been over a decade at this point, but I used to do, this was my job. This was my job. So he's right by the concepts here, but he has to remain optimistic. He's a business owner, and ultimately for everybody involved, these are now added stresses you didn't have before. So if you're a small business, you've been doing the toy stuff, you've been doing anything, you're probably operating at a pretty slim margin. You're probably at a slim margin. But going back to the initial conversation here, if Walmart's saying they can't absorb the stuff, these people ain't absorbing it either. Them's the breaks. The last video I'm going to show you guys comes from Toy Snowman, and this was something I didn't even know this was a scenario. I did not know it was a scenario. I ended up watching some more videos from other industries, and it is a thing. This is a thing. So we're going to check out what Toy Snowman said. This is something that set me off this weekend, to the extent that I made a post, and I was very angry in the posts. But these companies, these are the people that we root for. These are the toy manufacturers. These are the toy sellers we root for. They buy wholesale from the manufacturer. So in the case of Toy Snowman, he has a deal with Hasbro. So he orders cases of stuff. He sells it to us for cost. These are the alternatives. These kinds of businesses are the alternatives to a Walmart, to a Target that are out there. Bits and Buttons in Florida, they have a deal with Hasbro. If you guys didn't know that. So that's why, like, if you went to bitsandbuttons.com, if you went to the store, you'll see Marvel Legends, you'll see wrestling figures, and they're the same prices that you would see at a Target or at a Walmart, because they have deals with the manufacturers. But in having those deals, they still have to upfront the money to get the product. Trucking, shipping, tariff, broker, etc. The scenario that he's about to say here, I had no idea about. Zero. But again, this is one of the good guys. And one of the people that he's one of the guys that gets screwed over by all this. He's not even in the United States. Not even in the United States.
Update video with a bunch of stuff. Ooh, look at that hair. So our update is, well, I just have a bunch of few things I want to talk about. It's like about tariffs. I'm reading off my little script here. So tariffs, the shipping strike, buying collections, some returns, and some local delivery, I guess, that we're doing. I can't read my own handwriting, so I'm just going to make it up as we go. So, I guess the big one is, tariffs, right? So, tariffs, I guess we'll make an update. So, for those who don't know, Bandai ships from the U.S. because...
Actually, I'm sorry to hear that, Patrick, about your pet emergency. You're just in time, though, because we're talking about Bandai and import of Bandai.
Their main distributor is Bandai Namco, which was originally a company called
Good to see you, Man Collects.
Bandai absorbed them, and so they have the rights for all Bandai products that sell in North America. So even the Canadian distributor for Bandai here in Canada buys from Bandai North America, because everybody, if you want to buy Bandai products, has to buy it from the official Bandai distributor in North America, which is Bluefin / Bandai Namco North America. Which means that if there's tariffs, Japanese goods, and they come over to North America, they have to go to the US first, which there's a tariff, which means us here in Canada, means our Bandai products will be tariffed. So a long way of saying is that we've taken off all pre-orders for Bandai off our website, and we're just going to wait and see. Because so if you have your order in, that's fine. Nothing's gonna change. Whatever you paid is what you paid. We're not gonna charge you more or do something weird like that.
Which means he's eating
Can't
it.
be bothered. We'll
He's
just absorb it and have that placed in. But we're not taking any more new pre-orders for Bandai, just because we don't know the situation when those products arrive, and we don't want to take a bigger loss than already that's happening. Which is gonna be a theme for this video because we're taking a lot of L's right now. So that's all. So you'll notice on our website, no Bandai pre-orders, and we're probably not gonna take any new pre-orders. We do plan on ordering everything, but we want to see what our final cost is. So we're just not gonna take pre-orders for those products. Everything else is more or less the same. Nothing.
I actually want to cry right now. Truly. This is like textbook definition of catching strays. And I see that the viewers are dropping in this video. It's fine. I like talking about it. You guys know that. This guy doesn't even live here. Toy Snowman and his store, it's in Canada. And what is happening is screwing them over too. Because I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. I assumed if you're buying from another country and you're going to Canada, it goes straight from country 1 to country 2. Didn't even factor in that there's a possibility that things go from country 1 to country 2 to country 3 to final destination. In this case, it's a 1 to 2 to 3. So he gets hit on tariffs 2 different times. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like when everybody makes these videos, bashing, a Hasbro, bashing a Super 7, they have more money at their dispense that they can use to absorb stuff. But now you get an example of somebody who is also running a company, and there's no other person in between us here. It's A and B, and you're seeing how it's affecting him. You see how this stuff, what's happening now, could destroy him. Literally could. Didn't even vote for the man because he doesn't have the ability to vote for the man, but he's getting screwed over. So I don't know, that it's this story, it will continue to be talked about on the channel, and I understand that there's a lot of people here that hate when I talk about it, but it's directly tied. I cannot not talk about it. It's just a reality of the situation. Just like I talked about the movie. Did I talk about the movie thing, or did I just post about it? The 100% tariff of movies. Probably not going to happen, to be honest, in my opinion. But this one is what we do. All of us sit here and we spend grocery money on fun pieces of plastic that bring us joy. And somebody was out there and designed. Man Collects, I didn't even do this on purpose. I'm literally holding a McFarlane figure. And you know how I feel about McFarlane. But Chris, if you're still in the chat, have you unboxed this one? Let me know your thoughts. But this is why I talk about it. This is why I talk about the tariff stuff. You still got to open that one, yeah. This is why I talk about the tariff stuff, because a lot of us enjoy this hobby. It's not a hobby that we want to stop. And the tariff stuff is way beyond the toys. But this is not what we don't talk about, non-nerdy things on the channel. That's not really what we do. But we're tying this real life thing to something that brings us joy. Like Todd is not going to be able to eat the tariffs on this kind of stuff for a long time. So maybe the perfect Superman figure will come out soon enough. But if the tariffs are too high, I won't get it. And another company that we've not heard from when it comes to this stuff is NECA. I'm really curious about that. Because I bought this figure. This is a year old at this point. I wanted it for Christmas. Didn't happen Got it now. Absolutely love it. I give NECA a lot of crap from time to time. And every time I get a NECA figure, I love it. Tatsu being one of those that just didn't quite work out for me. But this dinosaur, this Earl figure here, I love it. And NECA has already been going through problems. We know it. Gargoyles line, done. Dinosaurs line, I don't see any other dinosaur figures. I don't even think people want other dinosaur figures. We got 3 figures done. Pee Wee Herman, we got the 1 figure, probably done after that. I don't know what their margins are. There's no way they're going to be able to eat these costs, and they're probably already on the ropes when it comes to some of these things. So what does happen here, if I'm going to be an optimist, depending on what side of the fence you're on, one of the arguments people have, especially economists that tend to be left-leaning, is these are bad scenarios because as companies start to suffer, the larger companies now have a chance to come in and scoop up all these smaller companies to make themselves even more bloated than before. So if we're talking about Hasbro, for example, if Super 7's on the fence, which Super 7 signed a deal with Hasbro last year, right? Because they have the Power Ranger figures. We saw those on the website. We saw the G.I. Joe page action figures on the web, or the reaction figures, right? So a company like Hasbro right now, if Super 7's on the ropes bad enough, be like, yo, I know we have a license deal right now. How about we just buy you? Call it a day. A company like NECA, you guys are really good at the likenesses of some of these figures. How about we acquire you guys? We'll just be an umbrella company to you. Keep the name. Keep your little office down there in New Jersey. But now you pay us to exist. And that's another thing that happens. So let's see how long some of these companies last on their own. But it's shitty. It is absolutely shitty. Absolutely shitty. And with Super 7 letting go of their sculptors, if I'm like a Hasbro, again, to that point, I'm hitting them up like, yo, need a job? I'll give you this pay. It's a lot lower than paying the other artists I currently have on payroll, but I'm gonna give you this option. What's your other option? You got nothing? Take it or leave it. Scumbag behavior. Scumbag behavior comes in times like this. So there's layers to the game, and that's what I try to explain here on the channel, and I hope you guys appreciate it from time to time that we talk about this stuff. Yeah, Chris, open the figure. I'm slacking. My pile of openers is now taller than me. You and JB. JB's got a pile. Seth has a pile down in Florida. Yeah, but I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna give this Superman figure the honor of my definitive. I am curious though if anyone has taken the head off of this one to put the Christopher Reeve, if the skin tones match at all. I know it's a similar body from what I saw. But it's a good one. I was hesitant when I bought it, but upon opening this figure, I'm enjoying it. Patrick said tariff talk is inevitable. Content on most you did have a comment there. Tariff talk is inevitable. Content on most channels probably aren't ready for the month or two dry season of figures arriving. To spin up container shipments full of diverted figures at a new price will be the new thing to watch for. That's what I was talking about earlier. See, we're on the same page. You weren't even here and we were talking about it in a good way. Like I know I'm not talking crazy that you were mentioning what I mentioned before. There are other pieces to the puzzle that is logistics. People are focused on the tariff stuff, but considering a 90-day window, there's a huge rush happening right now coming out of Asia. You want your HasLab on the shipment? You're gonna have to pay extra. That's how that works. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. That's gonna be a long clip on the channel, but I'll make it. Any last things that you guys wanted to talk about before we wrap today's episode? I'm just gonna